How you doing, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Mechanical Warriors. My name's Josh Cav, and this episode is really interesting because we finally finished the rough structure of the back parcel shelf and the back insert behind the seats. We've got everything laid out here, roughly how we're going to put it in. So these tanks, we've got to cut big recesses in on a 45, so I'm going to go really, really deep. They will sit slightly up, but this is basically how it's going to be laid out. I'm going to go slightly deeper on everything and slightly wider with all my cutouts because I'm going to put red LED lights underneath everything so that when the doors or boot opens, all this will light up from underneath. If you can imagine, over the top of this, we're going to have red stitched hexagon raised leather across everywhere, and then to divide it, like places like here in the quarter panels, we're going to use black suede with red stitching around the edges just to break up the hexagon stitch a little bit. So that's the next job. We've got to measure all this out, get it all exactly where it's going to go, then cut our recesses. The recesses are actually a little bit tricky. The way I do them is I cut the recesses out and the pieces so that they can actually bolt on underneath. And the good thing about doing it this way is we can cover each piece and then bolt it on underneath, so that even when you look down in beside the amplifiers and underneath, you can see that every single section, every area is covered with leather and stitched and joining correctly is the best way I could put it. So lots of work to do in this episode, but we're going to get all these recesses cut out and everything here ready to be covered with our material. Then in the next episode, we're going to move on to the dash and get stuck into the dash. So let's go. So using 10mm PVA board, I cut out two small headrests for the 6-inch splits to add a bit of shape to the whole structure in the back. All these parts I screwed and used wood glue to make sure nothing would rattle. Once I was finished with this, I then put everything back into position to mark out the holes for the recess. This was quite a time-consuming job. Once I was completed, then it was just a matter of cutting out the holes I marked with the jigsaw. Now I'm ready to start building the edges for the recesses. I just rested each piece in its place because I'm using fiberglass to hold everything together, then later I'll add filler and reshape it to the look I'm after. With a paintbrush, I added fiberglass resin and matting to lock everything into place. Okay guys, so we've just finished cutting out this insert for the NOS bottles. We've got fiberglass drying here at the moment, so I can't show you the NOS bottles in, but I will show you that shortly. Basically, once this is dry, we're going to get filler and get rid of all of these sharp edges. I want nice, smooth, flowing, curved edges, similar to what we've done here. So we'll use the filler to do that once that's done. Pretty much, apart from two holes that we need to cut out for the NOS lines for the NOS bottles, this piece is almost finished. Then we move on to the back parcel shelf. We've got the 3 amplifiers and the Nexus R5 to recess in. You can see we've made the 2 headrests there. There's going to be 2 6-inch splits put in there. As also on the back side of that, we've got 2 10-inch subs that we need to install onto the back side of that. And then we have to build a box on the back of that. Once all that is finished, this whole section is done and ready to be covered with material. But before we be covering that with material, we'll be moving on to the dash and do the exact same thing what we did here with the dash, get everything fitted and looking sweet, and then we'll cover the entire vehicle with all the material and everything that we're going to do in that area. So let's keep going. When sanding filler, make sure you use a very coarse grit sandpaper until you get the shape you're after. Once I spent 10,000 hours sanding everything, I then focused on the top recesses for the amp and the Haltech R5, which is the heart of this monster we are building. Okay guys, so we finished all of the cutouts for the top parcel shelf here, which basically next job is making the recesses for everything to sit under. It's a bit tricky doing this when you're covering it with leather. Lucky I've done it before, so I know what to do and what not to do. But basically, the way to do it in a way where we're not having to do too much stitching, because obviously we want the leather to go down into the bottom, but we don't want to create like a sock on every piece. It's just, it makes a lot of stitching. So what I tend to do is I make the cup basically a U with an extended bottom, and then basically what this allows is you cover the bottom with your fabric and also your two sides, and then it bolts up to the top. So from the top down, it looks like the whole thing's covered, but it's actually two pieces. Another cool thing about doing it this way is because the two ends are open, it allows the unit to breathe air through it, so it keeps it cooler. So that's the next job, is to create all that. Apart from that, we've still got to cut the subs into the back here. So we've got two subs there, and then in the center, I'm thinking we're gonna have our battery box and our battery set up in a little door opening there in the center, which will make it nice and pretty, and also a battery isolator switch up the top. So that's what I'm thinking for there. Yeah, from here, we've basically just got to start them inserts, whack them two holes for the subs, and this back piece is done, ready. So we'll move on to the dash next. So let's get going. I gotta say guys, I'm loving this part of the build. Seeing these NOS bottles and all this hardware on display like this really gets my juices flowing. This is going to look so good when it's finished, and these sub boxes are built so tough. The sound system is going to pump. Okay guys, we've got the back insert is now done. This piece is pretty much ready to be covered with our hexagon red stitched leather, which is still not here yet. We've got all our recesses for our amplifiers here, as well as the Haltech unit. The Haltech unit still needs a little bit of work because of our power cables. Where they come up, they actually sit 90 degrees off from the unit. They sit quite high. They're very, very thick, big cables. So whether I lower the entire unit or just cut channels in so that the cables sort of run down like that, I'm not 100% sure how I'm going to do that yet, but either way, we're going to get that sorted. I've still got to attach the headrest thingamybobbies onto the parcel shelf. That's another job that's got to be done. Come around and see the front. We've finished the boxes on the inside of this piece for the 10-inch subs that are going on the back here. You can see there, they're all sealed up, ready to go. I still need to create a door here on the center, which is going to be our access to our battery compartment, which is going to be in there. Not 100% sure how I'm going to do that yet, because I want it to be a hingeless door, and I want the seam to basically marry in with the stitching so that it doesn't actually look like a door there, but it will be. So that's how I want it to end up. Don't know how I'm going to do it yet, but we will get to that. Apart from that, we've fitted all of these little bits and pieces. So after we've put material over this, this will basically be ready to be wired up. So once we finish these little bits and pieces here, we're then going to move on to the dash. So in the next episode, we're going to be cutting into that dash. I've got a massive big Tesla style screen that we're going to fit to that dash. We're going to get rid of a lot of busy mess in that dash. It's going to be a nice, clean, smooth, finished looking dash, and modern looking as well. Completely nothing like what the Supra dash looks like, because the Supra interior is actually quite ugly, in my opinion. Anyway, so we're going to change that. Once we've got the dash finished, then we're going to be covering this whole thing in our hexagon stitched leather. I do believe too, next week we have the parts coming for our engine, which is our block and a few other bits and pieces that are in the machine shop at the moment, getting some machining work before we put the engine together. So keep an eye out for that video, because that video will be coming soon. I know everyone's dying to see the monster that we're going to be putting into this car. Monster of an engine, I should say. Anyway, so yeah guys, if you like the content, if you like what you see, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. If you want to get your tickets in to win this car, we are going to be giving this car away once it's finished. Get your tickets in now. We are selling tickets. Jump on our app, Mechanical Warriors. Just search it on any of the app stores, Apple or Android, and you can download the app. It's free. We've also got exclusive content on there for our members only. So check that out. Get your tickets into the draw, and we'll see you for the next episode. That's all for this week. Cheers, guys.